Grand Rising, everybody. Wait a minute. There you go, YouTube, Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? We about to get this party started. Banging lock at the door. Can't have any straight people just arbitrarily walking in the door. I know. Last Thursday was an interesting Thursday because we abruptly ended because my son called. So today we're going to get back into our reading of the Kybalion. Y'all asked for it, you wanted it, so you're getting it. So, you know the drill. Who are you? Where are you at? Hey, Teresa, how you doing? I need all your good mornings and salutations. Let's get the good mornings and salutations. The grand risings. The lighting of the cigar. It's like second most important ritual right here. It must be done. How many of you went out and bought or got you the Kybalion after last week, or already have the Kybalion? I want to know who already has this book. Who's already read the book? Get this one right. Who's already read it? Who already has it? I'm trying to get this microphone to stand up correctly. It does not want to act right there, Facebook. So we're just going to let it be. Ooh, and you know what? So you've read it and read it. Good. El Paso is hot. 2 years ago, I was crossing through El Paso, spent the night. I enjoyed El Paso. One, y'all have like downtown, there was just like an abrupt car show, like jokers in their cars just driving around. And then two, I was finally out of Texas the next morning. Took a long time riding across Texas. Birmingham, Michelle, you down the street. Birmingham, go on over to Lee's and go to Buc-ee's for me. I love Buc-ee's. You got it. We actually have a joker who will go all the way down to Warner Robins to go to Buc-ee's and come all the way back up here just to go to Buc-ee's. Just an hour and a half drive. Well, hour and a half to go to Buc-ee's. And I don't blame him. Oh, you're visiting your parents in El Paso. Okay. Tell your parents that we all said hello. Everybody said hello. How you doing, Brandon? Gucci, Tulsa, Oklahoma. My peoples. So we are, last week we didn't get to finish the overview portion of the Kybalion. So we're going to get started today. Please ask any question at any time. I'll try to look up from time to time to make sure I'm not just so focused on this. We did read through the principle of vibration because right now the book is just giving us a, wait a minute, did we read through the principle of vibration? Yeah, we talked about everything that moves, everything has vibration. I know I turned the page because I have a bookmark right there. But we're going to continue through we're going to read the book through. This is what was asked for. I'm in the business of making sure y'all get what you want. So thus far, we've talked about the law of mentalism, the law of, and just a brief overview of the law of mentalism, the law of correspondence, and the law of vibration. If you haven't seen that, you have to go back to last week, but realize that the video is going to stop abruptly. And then you come back to this one, and we're going to start with the law of polarity. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I love this too. And my hand of handsome. So the law of the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pairs of opposite. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. A lot of y'all gonna, many of y'all who deal with Mayat, who deal with dualism, you're going to understand this principle, right off the bat. But just understand that there are opposites. Everything has its opposites. That basic understanding that we got in grade school, you'll be able to reference that. This principle embodies the truth that everything is dual. Everything has two poles. Everything has a pair of opposites, all of which were old hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degrees. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites that may be reconciled, extremes meet. Everything is and isn't. At the same time, all truths are but half truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything, etc., etc., etc. I always like that part where it says every truth is half false, because to me, and from when we're going to get deeper into this one later on, it's about perspective. It's about your perspective. That's why all truth. That's one of the reasons why all truths are half truths. To continue, it explains that everything. It explains that in everything there are two poles, or opposite aspects, and that opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing, with many varying degrees between them. To illustrate, heat and cold, although opposites, are really the same thing. The differences consist merely of degrees of the same thing. Look at your thermometer and see if you can discover where heat terminates and cold begins. You can't do that. It's going to come down to everybody's perspective and how you feel, the point of view you're coming from. But understanding that it is all one and the same on the same pole, there's no true distinction except for what you distinguish yourself and vibration. But it's going to get into that. There is no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. The two terms heat and cold simply indicate varying degrees of the same thing. And that same thing which manifests as heat and cold is merely a form of variety, a rate of vibration. So heat and cold are simply the two poles of that which we call heat, or you can call it temperature. And the phenomenon attendant thereupon are manifestations of the principle of polarity. So one of the first things that we, in order to thrive in your life here now, in order to thrive in every aspect of consciousness and thought and movement, is to identify something as what the pole is. The best problem solvers identify the pole, not so much the actual individual problem. So when you're dealing with something, once you can identify what the actual thing is, then when we get to cause and effect, you'll be able to increase the vibration with the right causations in a format that moves you to the side of the pole that you desire to be on. So when it comes to problem solving, this is some very vital information. The law of polarity is a great understanding that you must have. The same principle manifests in the case of light and darkness. which are the same thing. The difference consisting in varying degrees between the two poles of the phenomenon. Where does darkness leave off and light begin? What is the difference between large and small, between hard and soft, between black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive and negative? I ain't like, some people ain't gonna like that part between black and white because it's just pigmentation. It's just melanin, different degrees of melanin, of vibration. I'm gonna leave that alone and keep going. Okay. The principle of polarity explains these paradoxes, and no other principle can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example, that of love and hate. Two mental states apparently totally different, and yet there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and the middle point to which we use the term like or dislike, which shades into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither. And all are simply degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you will but think a moment. And more than this, and consider of more importance by the hermetist, it is possible to change the vibration of hate to the vibration of love. It is one's own mind and in the mind of others. Many of you who read these lines have had personal experiences of the involuntary rapid transition from love to hate. I know that I have. And the reverse, not in the reverse, in your own case and that of others. And you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will. This is why when you read, if we ever do the book Outwitting the Devil, or even if you've read Think and Grow Rich, it discusses how love is an emotion to be controlled, because love is of the will. It is not of the heart, as we like to say. It is a mental thing to love, and it is determined by your own willpower. And it's the same for hate. You have to will yourself to hate. And continue. By means of the hermetist formula, well, being accomplished by the use of the will by means of the hermetist formula. Good and evil are but the pole of the same thing. And the hermetist understands the art of transmuting evil into good by means of an application of the principle of polarity. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy. I want to read that part again. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy, known and practiced by the ancient and modern hermetic masters. And the understanding of the principle will enable you to change his own polarity as well as that of others, if he will devote the time to study and to study necessary to master the art. So evil can be transmuted to good by the sheer force of the will and the understanding of the law of polarity. I believe that's what I read, right? I believe that. That's what I read. That you can transmute evil to good, which also means you can transmute good to evil. That means that there is no way that there is an absolute devil nor an absolute God, because there is no absolute evil, there is no absolute good. That at any point, as we can see in most writings, that good God can become devilish, and that devil can feel all right. You know, in the story of Job, we see an example of that. We see the God being devilish, and the devil just like, yeah, I'm just going back and forth. Wasn't even messing with Job. Didn't even think much about Job. But here's the rub, you know. But the thing about this alchemy is mostly about yourself. It's mostly about you. But that art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy known and practiced by the ancient and modern hermetic alchemists. An important part here is at the end, after that, it says, and understanding this principle will enable one to change his own polarity, meaning that you can change who you are. You can become whoever you desire to be. You can manifest yourself at varying degrees of consciousness, of being, of physical appearance, of work, of lifestyle. You can determine the pole to which you want to exist on. And it's a part of your mental alchemy. You know, I once had a client and she really wanted to change her life, but she couldn't change her life where she lived because everybody was trying to hold her to the pole that she was already existing on. So she literally moved to Miami so she can change who she was and identify herself as to who she wants to be. I would disagree with one thing personally. It takes effort for me to hate. I love automatically and effortlessly. No, I think we're saying this. That's not a disagreement. I wouldn't say that's a disagreement. It may feel effortless. It may even be effortless. Automatic, no. You don't. You meet a woman and you just automatically love her, like in love with her. It takes work to be in love. It takes a mental effort to be in love. Ain't talking about regular love. To be in love, to rise to the higher vibrations of love. Like that takes effort. That takes action. That takes you, them demonstrating something towards you, you demonstrating something towards them, in order to truly have love for somebody. You can be kind. You can be kind to people, but kindness and love are not on the same polarity. It's not on the same pole. It's different. Those are two different poles. You know? So you can be kind to someone, and we may say that that is love, and it is a type of caring for them, but it is not the same as if you hate someone and love someone. It's not on that same pole. You know, showing kindness is a different type of pole to be on. Like you can have kindness on one end and rudeness on another end, and that pole is treatment of people, like treatment of people. But I understand what you're saying. It takes more energy to hate someone than it does to love someone. So in the comparison, love can seem effortless, whereas hate takes a lot of energy. But we still have to use our mental will. We still decide. And this is what the Outwitting the Devil talks about. Love is a decision. It is a mental decision that you make. Napoleon Hill had to have read this book because there's so many elements of this book in his books. But it's a decision you make. And it's it's a decision that you make every day. Every day, throughout the day, you make this decision of whether or not you're going to demonstrate love to someone or not. I'm gonna tell you, I struggled in my youth with relationships because in my youth, I got married at 19. I understood that principle at 19, that love is a daily decision. I didn't explain it well. My conflict resolution wasn't great, but I understood that part. But it was so difficult for other people to recognize it because other people, those around me, like my entire circle was like, love should just flow. Love should just be easy. Love should just be a natural thing. And I was like, hell no. Love is work. Love is energy. Love is decision making every day. You know, I can, if whatever is what, I hadn't read the 5 love languages yet. I had read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That was the only relationship book I had read back then. But I understood it take work. And everybody was like, no, it should just be easy. It should just flow. I was like, no, it's not. Love shouldn't be laborious. Love shouldn't be on a schedule. No, yes, it does. I know that if I don't take this trash out, that as it may seem minor to some people, but it may be major to her. I know that if I'm silent all day and we'll talk when I get home, that's not good. It's not good at all. That's not demonstrating love. I had to purposely do that. Purposely make sure, it's been all day. I haven't talked to my lady. Let me call her. Let me send her a text. Well, back then it was call. We had no text. But I don't know if we had text or not. But anyway, let me call. Whatever it is, it's a mental exercise. It's a mental decision that you consistently have to make every day to show somebody love, to even when it's your friends, your co-workers, your children, whomever it is, you have to make that decision to demonstrate that. Whether we're talking about respect and disrespect, whatever it is, everything is mental. The entire universe is mental. Nothing in this existence at every plane. The laws are working. So everything in existence is always mental. It starts with the mental. So whoever you want to be, however you want to be, whatever life you desire to have, figure out the pole, change the pole, and increase your, and identify the pole first. And as you identify the pole, you'll be able to expand or decrease whatever it is in life you desire. You'll start to be able to manifest it. That's why these people who read that book, The Secret, I just got to think about the check, think about the check, think about the check. They never got the check. 99.9% of them never got the check. I want the husband. I want the wife. I want the husband. I'm just thinking about the husband, thinking about the wife. I'm imagining us going on vacation. I'm imagining our wedding. I'm imagining us, walking in the garden together. I'm imagining us getting it in. I'm imagining. And their asses never got it. Because all they thought is they just had to think it. That was just the beginning part. Everything else. Are you the type of person? Are you existing as the type of person that the type of husband or wife that you desire would desire you? Because you can't be walking around all day, and I'm being extreme, with slippers, slippers, pajama pants, a tank top, and a bonnet, and you want the dude, you want the dude who, he's a high-powered lawyer, the doctor, the engineer, the business person who's doing great, the guy that wears suits, or the guy that, he's dressed nice and all that. That ain't gonna work. You can't be the dude walking around with sneakers, shoes untied, pants hanging down off your ass, your drawers showing, a damn jersey on, hat turned backwards, and your hair nappy with tattoos on your face, and you think you about to get that woman that's gonna take care of you, that's gonna love you, that's fine at all. You're not getting her. The one that, she got she the IT person, she traveling and she doing things. You think she finna take you around? Hell no. No. If you ain't matching, you gotta identify your pole and get on it. Use a different perspective. Do you think babies choose to love, or it's an automatic reaction? I think they choose to love. I mean, they're discovering what love is, but they are responding to what they are receiving from people. Babies are were very difficult for me to understand back in the day. I used to say that my daughter was born greedy. But I recognize babies are so babies are like little sponges. From the moment of their brain starts clicking, they are receiving everything. and they are learning all at the same time. They're getting the wrinkles in their brain, but mostly they're learning. So the baby is they're hungry. They don't know why they're hungry. It caused them pain, so they cry because it's an automatic response. They get the bottle. Now they start to learn that's what this means. They start recognizing the person who's giving them the bottle, the person who's holding them, hugging them, the person that's smiling and doing all these things in them. Now, babies are more instinctive. Can they feel your energy? If you got some jacked up energy, can they feel it? Yes. And they may not want to be around that energy because they're still more instinctive in that regard. But they learn love by the people that are taking care of them, by the people they become familiar with. And then as they grow, they develop it into a higher complex level of understanding because they start to get the culture and start to learn the culture and being human and so on and so forth. But yes, I think babies choose love and babies prefer love. The hate has to be taught. Now they start to learn dislike. You give them some food that they don't like, they start learning dislike. They start learning discomfort of being hungry, of whatever it is, being told no. They recognize the difference in your voice and recognize that this is a negative. This is a negative voice when you're like no, compared to oh the little baby, all that. I never talk to my children that way, but they all that nonsense. I spoke to my children in English, correct English. Look at little fella. Yeah, that's my son. It's my daughters. But anyway, I go off on tangents. Leave me alone. But no, I think they learn it. They choose it. They don't recognize the fullness of their choices, but they are seeking. I think most people are attracted to love and fun and excitement, because of one of our primary human needs is certainty. So because we need certainty, to be certain that you got familiar, you got family, you got friends, you got people who care about you around you. You need that certainty. We have to have that certainty. And yeah, we like a little bit of uncertainty. We like to meet new people, but we like to meet the new people that fits into the kind of people that we like. We don't like meeting new people that don't fit into the categories of people that we like. But yes, let's continue. Going off on another tangent. No, it's not a tangent. Good questions. Any questions? We good. While we're still doing this part, though, let's try to keep the questions in the same area, but that's within the area though. So don't take it out, point you out, my man. I don't know why your name doesn't show up. Yeah, that's gonna drive me crazy one day. All right, so now we're gonna talk about the principle of rhythm. I love the principle of rhythm. It's like it's one of the ones I really like because it always lets me know that no matter how bad things, no matter how far things go to the left, I can always get to the right. I can always get back to the right. All right. It's things I didn't know when I was younger. Yo, we ready? We ready? Raheem, we ready? David, we ready? Joel, we ready? All right. Let's go, Teresa. Let's go. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensate. The Kybalion. Oh, we about to talk about how some people get stuck in a rut because of fear. And see, this is one of the things. I take this book, I study the chakras, I study the Tao, and all of it together just because what's going to keep a person stuck in a rut or stuck in, and the rut is really not on the far left, it's in that middle area. It's to keep y'all in the middle, that rut, and it's that fear. You got to unblock that fear chakra, get out that rut. All right, sorry, I get a little excited. Forgive me. And yes, I got to keep lighting my cigar because I'm not smoking it fast enough. And this one don't hold enough heat to maintain it. This principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measure of motion to and fro, a flow and an inflow, a swing back and forward, a pendulum like movement, a tide like ebb and flow, a high tide and low tide. Between the two poles, which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity. So the law of rhythm works together. Okay, the law of rhythm works together with the law of polarity. All these laws work together, but some laws are more, they identify more with the other. Where was I? In accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago, there is always an action and reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, sun, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifested in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and falls of nations, in the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man. And it is with this latter that the hermetist finds the understanding of the principle most important. Understanding that you cannot escape the law of rhythm. The law of rhythm is always at play in every aspect of life. Some people can't fathom the countries that they exist in now ever not being in existence. I'm sure there were people during the Mali Empire who thought that the Mali Empire would last forever. You know, the Songhai would last forever. The Zulus would last forever. The Aztecs, the Mayans, that they would all last forever. Just like there are people, and I went around and used to ask people this: how long do you think America will last? Forever. No. I used to think that the Soviet Union was going to last forever when I was a kid. It gone. So all things has its rises and its falls, and you've seen that in your life already. I'm sure if you're 15, you've seen ups and downs already in your life. Right? The Hermetists have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have also discovered certain means to overcome its effects in themselves. By the use of the appropriate formulas and methods, they apply the mental law of neutralization. This is very, very important. This is very important. The law of neutralization is the key, really, to having a great life in every aspect of having a great life. You really want to get a deep understanding of the law of neutralization. They cannot, let me see if it talks about it here. I don't want to go into something else and then not. Okay, it does. Good. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learned how to escape its effects upon themselves to a certain degree, depending upon the mastery of the principle. They have learned how to use it instead of being used by it. It in this and similar methods consists the art of the hermetist, the master of hermetics. My shadow is in the way. The master of hermetics polarize himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then he neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who have attempted any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously. But the master does it consciously, right? So the master does this purposefully, willfully, not just letting it happen, but he does this consciously and by the use of his will, and attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses, who are swung back and forward like the pendulum. This principle and that of polarity have been closely studied by the Hermetists, and the methods of counteracting, neutralizing, and using them to form an important part of the Hermetic mental alchemy. If y'all don't get nothing from today, get this. Understand this. Everything is syndrical. I cannot say that word. Syndrical. Hindu yoga showed this also. Yes, it does. Now, so the law of rhythm, you get it. Everything moves, everything swings, everything has its ups and downs. Any couple that's been married for a long time will tell you they've had their good times and their bad times, right? And I like to utilize this. The law of neutralization is one of my favorite things to utilize when it comes to relationships, because it is the key thing in what I call protecting the relationship. Whether it's a friendship, whether it's a family relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, any kind of relationship will do, right? I'm asking. I don't want to miss anybody's question, so that's why I pause. I'm asking you. Who you ask who all the time? Oh, you keep asking who died? Yeah, you do that all the time with the good morning. If somebody want to say good morning, man, just let them say good morning. That's what they choose to do. You know, well, we shouldn't try to force people. If people don't want to change their thought process on something, I understand what you're saying about the difference between morning and morning. But if it's the same person and they refuse to answer, just let it go. Tell the people of America why they are believing so much. That's not what we talk about right now. But I'll get back to that later. But I need to know what you're talking about. Believing so much of what? Um, so, yeah, because the good morning thing, there's no reason to get into a circle debate with anybody. You know, at some because all you know it just bothers yourself, man. Just let it go. That's why you don't see me doing debate shows anymore, because all them circle debates, it's like, oh, why do it? Why expense that negative energy? Why let them people and deal with all that energy? You know what I'm saying, man? Raheem, I just like, okay, that's where they want to be. I just let them be, man. Just let them be and let them have their own little world. Let them do what they want to do. So if whomever you were saying that to don't want to answer you, Mars don't want to answer you, just be like, okay, you know, just ride with it. That's the question you're asking me about morning. You asking me who died, or the one tell me why from tell the people what's the question you asked me? Ask me the question again, so I know what you're talking about. But while you're doing that, let me talk about this part. Um, you see, everybody wants to have great relationships, right? We all want to have great relationships, and we will work hard initially to have a great relationship, except for family. Except for family, blood family, we just assume we're supposed to have this relationship, but we're all together all the time. Like I grew up around my cousins and aunts and uncles and all that, so a relationship just kind of naturally developed because we was always around each other, so it seemed effortless to do it. But people outside of that, we have to commit to actions to develop that relationship. And especially in a romantic relationship, we push, we do everything we need to do to get that person. We work hard at it. But then when we get the person, we start slacking. We pull back. We stop doing what it took. My grandmother told me when I was about 16, 17 years old. She said, whatever you did to get her, you got to do twice as much to keep her. Right? Which told me that I got to keep working. It's not like, okay, I got the prize, I'm good. But that's the law of neutralization, because everybody's going to have their moments where they start to swing back a little bit. Thank you, Deborah, for the stars. I greatly appreciate that. Supporting the channel. That's Deborah did that out of she did that out of remorse, because she was supposed to come over here last Saturday and she didn't. So she's trying to make up for it. Now she's trying to claim that she was sick. Okay. You can't stay. Appreciate you. But I'm glad you heard that part right there. Yeah. Why so much believer system? Why so much believer system? I still don't know what you're talking about. You got more characters you can use. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, why people believe in different systems? What particular system? Don't know. Very remorseful. Yeah, I got you. Well, there are more days that you can come over here, Deborah. Oh, you can answer his question. Propaganda. That's most Americans believe a lot of things. Yeah, most Americans do believe in a bunch of things because of the propaganda. And you're going to believe, not normally you're going to believe in whatever system you grew up in. See you soon. All right. You'll believe in whatever your parents have taught you, whatever society you've been in, your community, and in the larger community of your state, and then your nation, and so on and so forth, and religion. There's so many things that come at us that cause us to believe in different things, right? So if that's what you're talking about, Raheem, that was answered over on YouTube. So in a romantic relationship, let me get back to the power, because I'm telling you, you need to hear this part. All right, you need to hear this part. The way you are to be with a person, the way you were to get the person, and as things change, you have to always be in the mindset that every experience changes you and the person. Are you growing together in those experiences? Are you communicating? Or do you just let things happen, let things be? You get into this routine, and then all of a sudden she's not feeling like she's being loved as much anymore. He's not feeling like he's being loved as much anymore. And then distractions start. You start allowing distraction. You start paying attention to other people. You start developing other habits that take you away from your person, or that doesn't involve them. You start doing you. But all the while you're doing you, your pendulum is swinging to the left, right? You're swinging to the left. And then at some point, you swung so far to the left that the energy it takes to get back to the right, you might be unwilling to take it. Or it takes so much. And I used to have this thing I call this is a yo-yo thing. I express, this is what I need. This is what I need to feel loved in this relationship. About 2 weeks, the work is done, swinging to the right. Then it all starts going back to the left. Then about 3-4 months later, this is what I need. 2 weeks, things going to the right, but then it starts swinging to the left. But understand, it was here. Goes back, kick in 2 weeks, it only goes about right there. Goes back, kick in about 2 weeks, it only goes about right there. Goes back, kick in right there. And we're getting farther and farther to the left because we're never swinging hard enough to get back to the right. Now, I will say this, however, in the law of rhythm, when we get into it, and it said it briefly, however far you swing to the left is as far as you can swing to the right. So, but neutralization is being able to notice immediately when something is changing, and then getting back on your horse to vibrate higher to move you back to the right so that your swings are minimal. Well, let me make sure I'm in both cameras. So that your swings are minimal. Instead of, let me give you an example. Money is easy, an easy number, right? Let me see what y'all said before I give you this example. The Moors, the Christians, the fake Jews. I'm not a believer in nothing. I'm 50 years old, but my family, they believe in the Christian God. Most people believe in systems because they grew up in those systems, and it's safe in those systems. They feel safe because ever since they was about 13, they start utilizing every life experience to justify the system that they were conditioned to be in. It takes somebody who's really thinking to move themselves out of the system. And most people are not thinkers. And most people are never going to move out of that system. You can show most of them the tremendous amount of information, and they're still going to stay stuck in that system. So why do they believe? Because they've been trained to, and most people are not going to do more than what they've been trained to do. I approach romantic relationships differently. I show everything I am and who I am immediately. That way, she can't say I've changed or deceived her. I'm with you. I can't say your name because your name doesn't appear on there. So tell me what to call you. I'm with you. I'm exactly the same way. I am completely upfront from day one as far as who I am and what I expect, what makes me happy, everything. You know, from my good points and my faults, everything. Like I told my lady when I first met her, hey, I will, every now and then I'm going to procrastinate. This is going to happen. I'm going to procrastinate. And this is a sad thing, and I'm working on it. But I can honestly say that I have never had, this is the only thing I've been passionate about. But even in this right here, I have never given my 100% best at anything. I'm that honest with myself. I mean consistently. I mean, there have been little moments here and there, but I mean consistently giving all that you got. And I desire to experience that one. I do desire to experience that. To be able to everything. I'm talking about everything. Because with my entire life, I can look back and I can see that I could have done more, given more, been more. Right? I'm a professional procrastinator. And being a professional, bruh, I used to be a pro. I retired. But every now and then, you know, I step on the court. Every now and then I step on the court. But let me tell you how important this law of rhythm and the law of neutralization is. It's important in two different ways. It could be, I don't know the word to use right now, but it can be as dramatic as this. And I'm going to use numbers because numbers are easy to count. The most money I've ever put in my pocket in 1 year, most money I've ever made, like made the money, is $220,000 in 1 year. That's the most money I've ever made in my life. The least amount of money, other than zero when you was a kid, but the least amount of money I've ever made in my adult life, because I'm gonna just tell my adult life, not the teenage years, right? When I'm a responsible adult, was $12,000. $12,000. So my pendulum, my pole of money, 220, 12. And here's the thing. I swung from the 220 down to the 12. Because as far as you can go to the right is as far as you can go to the left. Now, in truth, as far as you go to the right, 220, I could have went further to negative 220. You understand? That's what it means. You can, the far to the left is the negative level of wherever you were to the right. I put the brakes on at 12,000. That was a hard year. Y'all. It was a hard year. Ugh. But that's as far. Now, one of the beauties of it, though, is when you swung to this far to the right, you always know how to get back to that point. You can get back to that point. You know how to get there. I know how to get back to 220. Right? I also know how to get to 12, but I know how to get to 220. So the good part about having a swing is knowing that you know how to get to wherever that part was. Now, but unfortunately, most people, right here, let's say this number is 60,000 and this number is 40,000. That's all they know. Is right there, 60 and 40. And that's comfortable for a lot of people. It's very comfortable. Them stay right here. No, we don't need to start nothing new. We don't need to try to branch off and try utilize one of my other talents that I've never used and expand myself over here so that I can jump past this. So no, I know 60, and they stay right there, and they go and they live their whole life and they say I'm happy. I didn't have troubles, I didn't have problems. Because trust me, when you make 220, you got a lot more responsibilities. It's a lot more stuff weigh on your mind. When you make 12, you just think about surviving. You just hoping you get to eat tomorrow, right? That's all you think about is survival. Over here, you think about kids and college and houses and the amount of work, the labor intensive work that you had to do. Or for me, it was mentally intensive and travel intensive. The work, it was a lot and a lot of responsibilities. So yeah, more money, more problems. It's not so much problems, more money, more responsibilities. Right. So it's like it's easy. That's how that law of polarization. Now, one of my friends who did the same job that I did back in the day, when I got up to 220, he got up there too, but he neutralized himself up there. I got out of IT. I didn't want to be in IT. I hated IT. I had to get out. I had to run. I got out of IT. It was killing me. It was killing me. He stayed, and we had a plan. We knew what certifications to get, keep our clearance, our little secret clearances and top secret clearances. Let's keep those clearances, and all those kind of things. We knew the game. We knew moving into biometric. We moved into biometrics. We moved into database, and we moved into project management. Moved into network security design. We knew the movements to neutralize ourselves, so that the swing would stay right here. I got out, so 12,000. He stayed in. He neutralized, and the 12,000 didn't happen immediately. It was like I went and did other work, and then the savings doing, and then there was no savings, and then bam, business went great for a while, and then had a bad couple 6 bad years in a row. But that second bad year was like, goddamn, 12,000. So it took about 4 or 5 years for no, it actually took longer than that. It took about 7 years for the swing all the way down to 12. But the point is, you can neutralize yourself so that you stay in a small swing to the right side of where you want to be. You had so much money in your life, but you did the wrong things. Many of us have done the wrong things with money. That's why my son, I set him on a really good program. Well, I'm setting him up on a really good program. And I just talked to one of my nieces tomorrow. This IT gig she about to get, I am going to show her how to not mess this up so that she can, within 7 years, be a millionaire. Because like I told her, I said, I wish I had me as an uncle when I was growing up. If I had me, I tell my kids all the time, if I had me as a father growing up, boy, I'd have been rich like a champ. If I had me as an uncle for her, I've been great financially. But I walked out into the world as an adult and didn't even know how to balance a checkbook. I didn't know how to use a credit card. I didn't understand credit, know nothing about credit. I didn't even know that you had to pay deposits to get a house, a department, to establish utilities. I had no idea about those things when I walked out into the adult world. So I got a crash course on that life and jacked everything up. So if you don't understand, you're in a relationship with somebody, friendship, romantic relationship, whatever the relationship is. As soon as you start seeing things start going a little bit to the left, that's when you jump back on your horse and do the things that you did to get with that person, to make that person happy, to make the relationship great. You know, you got to jump on it. You got to go. You got to ride that horse, you know, because if you don't and you allow it to go too far to the left, it may seem unrecoverable. It's recoverable, but you're going to have to exert way more energy than you did the first time in order to get back to where you were, right? Why would the military deny someone whom has aced all their aptitude tests and the and the most fit in their recruitment class? It depends. I would have to know a heck of a lot more information to be able to answer that question. Like they could have, were there any mental issues? Did they ever go to a counselor for depression, take any pills for that? Do they have flat feet? Like you may not be able to go in it for flat feet because they know that you'll be able to claim that as a disability later on. So it's a lot of different. That's a conversation to gain a lot more information about the person. Okay, let's see if we can get through 6 and 7. What time is it? 11:20. All right. Oh, now law of polarity, law of rhythm, law of vibration. You got to get this one right here in order to change everything in your life. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its causes. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law, not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The Kybalion. What did Thor tell them? It's magic. He said, what you call magic is science that you just don't understand. I love that line. I forget which movie it was, but when Thor said it's just science that you call magic is science you don't understand. That's what miracles, that's what luck, that's what chance are. It's science that you just can't understand. You just don't know. It's the causation that you just don't know what is the causation. So let's continue. This principle embodies the fact that there are cause and effect, cause for every effect, and effect for every cause, because it does work the other way. You can be the effect of someone else's causation. We know this, right? We know this one. In extreme, I roll up on somebody with a gun, I shoot them. That person didn't want to be shot, but I'm the causation, they're the effect. It's a very extreme one. It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it, y'all. I'm somewhat sane, right? It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes. To get that one, remember the law of correspondence: as above, so below as above. Even though they can affect each other, the higher planes do dominate the lower planes. We can just see this in the animal kingdom. The higher the consciousness, it dominates the lower consciousness. Dominating the lower plane. Still, nothing ever entirely escapes the law. The hermetist understands the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree, and by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causers instead of effects. The masses of people are carried along obedient to environment. This goes back to your question, Raheem. Obedient to environment, the wills and the desires of others stronger than themselves. This is also, somebody asked me the other day about curses. Like somebody came in the lounge, they asked me about curses. And I was like, if somebody's will is stronger than yours and they cause you to believe it, then yeah, it'll be real. It'll become real to you. But it's all about strengthening your mental aptitude, your brain, your will. And then nobody can do any of those things to you. All right. So of others stronger than themselves. Heredity, suggestions, and other outward causes, moving them about like pawns on a chessboard of life. But the masters, rising to the plane above, dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. Now, understand, I'm going to get that part again. But the masters, rising to the plane above, dominate their moods, character, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. If you cannot master yourself, what do I say 99% of the time when I end the video? You have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable, right? You have to master. Basically, it's a statement of self-mastery. You have to master who you are. Again, back to Napoleon Hill, because I know he read this book, Outwitting the Devil. It is the mastery of your emotions. It is the will to determine what character and qualities you're going to have that determines the outcome of your life. If you want to be an angry person all the time, you will not attract love. You will not attract greatness. Nobody wants you to come and work with them. You're angry all the time. You don't make a good co-worker. So I wouldn't want to hire you. And if you dupe me all right, Raheem, peace out, bro. Come back and watch the rest of it. If you dupe me in an interview, but I'm going to see it on the floor, and then I'm going to fire you because you're not a good teammate. But you choose to be whatever that is. That's your decision. But if you want to have greatness in your life, you have to find mastery over yourself. And as you master yourself, you begin to master everything around you. Remember, I like to quote the Gospel of Thomas, where it says, seek and you shall find, and when you find, you will be disturbed. After you are disturbed, you will marvel, and then you will reign over all. It's a statement of self. It's a Gnostic statement of self. Seek who you are. Seek out information. Seek out everything of your being. You'll eventually find it. When you do, it's going to be disturbing. There are things about you you're not going to like. There are things about you will like. There's conditionings that you've grown up with that you're not going to like. You're going to reject. You're going to be mad. You're also going to be disturbed because you're going to realize a lot of things that people you trusted, they led you astray. And it's going to disturb you, and it's hard. And then to walk away, to change who you are. People don't want to let you change. They don't want to let you be different, right? I wear hats all the time now, mainly because I own the cigar lounge now. But before I was working in the popcorn shop, and I was I owned a gym and I was a trainer, but when I was an IT guy and traveling, I wore hats all the time, right? People tried to make a big deal out of the fact that I was wearing hats all the time. It's like because they were accustomed to seeing me hatless for 10, 15 years. People want to hold you to what's comfortable to them. And that's disturbing. That's just a struggle. But after you finish that struggle, you begin to marvel at, who you are and how the world responds around you, how the world is around you, how your perceptions of the world is. After you finish that marvel, you reign over yourself, but you also reign over your environment. You don't allow certain people in your circle. You don't allow yourself to be in certain situations that could lead into some jacked up stuff. You are in control of who you are and most of the things around you. You become the causation. You then become the causation of your life. Whereas most people are not the causation of their lives. They are just going with the flow, going with how they've been told and taught and trained, and they haven't ever been really the causation of where they are today in their lives. And they're not doing anything to change it. They're just continuing to just la-di-da their life on through. Let me finish this chapter, this part. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The master obeyed the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule their own plane. In this statement, there is considered a wealth of hermetic knowledge. Let him read who can. So things that are happening on a higher plane, you can't do shit about it. You know, let's be honest. Let's be honest about it. You can't do nothing about it. The Catholics trick the people into thinking that they can pay money to get their family into heaven. Or if they pray they can get them out of limbo or out of purgatory. You have very little impact on what happens on the higher planes. Because one, we lack the true understanding of what the hell is actually going on the higher planes. We honestly do. We lack that. It would be like a ant trying to influence human civilization. Ants don't understand how human civilization functions, so how can an ant impact human civilization, right? It is very rare that it is only in special situations that you have that, but the ant is not doing it on purpose. When you see the army ants come, their purpose is to move from one area to another area. Them coming through human villages is not a purposeful thing. Like they're saying, "Ooh, there's a human village over there. You guys flank them from the left, and y'all flank them from the right." Even though this is my right and that's my left, but I know it's opposite for y'all. And then we're gonna converge on them, and drive them out. No, they're just trying to get to. They need to get over there, and you just happen to be in their way. But when they are in that moment, in that movement, they are affecting the higher conscious beings of animals and people, right? So during that moment, the lower plane is affecting the higher plane. So the only time you affect the higher plane is during an unknowable time. You don't know you're affecting the higher plane. You're just doing what you can manifest and control on this plane. And that's it. So when people say that I'm affecting things on the higher conscious level, not to your knowledge. Not to your knowledge. You don't know when you're doing it. You have no idea when you're doing it. One, you ain't there to know. You don't have the consciousness to be able to clock into that plane. So, but what you can do is you can be the causation for the overwhelming majority of things of how you exist on this plane of existence right now. Right? Rising above the mental squabbles of the average person. Rising above the frustrations that the average individual, that the group masses, the huddled masses, are just walking lockstep in, while everybody's looking that way, you're looking that way. While everybody's watching the magic in the right hand, you're actually seeing the trick in the left hand, right? You're welcome, David. So this is how we understand this. This is how we change who we are. This is how we change the environment. I remember, well, I don't remember, I wasn't there, but I remember being told and taught, especially here in Atlanta, when the civil rights movement started. Most of the Black people were against the civil rights movement. They were against Dr. King and Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael. They were against all these people doing what they were doing, but they didn't let that lower vibration. They didn't let their frustration, their fear, be the causation for them and their effect be to do nothing. But they had a higher mental state They controlled their emotions. They controlled their character, their moves, their activities, and they went out and they did, each one of them doing different, they all doing different things, but they went out and stood for what they believed. It's later on that that all the naysayers jumped in, all the ones who said that they were troublemakers. Later on, they jumped in when they felt like it was safe enough, or there was enough people involved that they can hide amongst the crowd, that they then joined in. Which the law of diffusion of innovation says that anyway. You have the first 1%, then 3%, then 10%, then the tipping point is at 15 to 18%, and then you get this massive 36% that joins in, right? And you'll still always have that 16% that will never, ever, ever join. And I'm sure that those are there. So true masters of life are those who control their moods, control their emotions, they control their actions, they control the environment around them. Not that they're controlling other people, but they don't lose it. Just like I said earlier, love is a decision. It's a decision. Like, I choose to love. I can choose not to, but I choose to. And because I choose to, I get it. And if somebody don't want to give it back, I will choose not to love them. It's one of the best things I taught my sons and daughters. If somebody is choosing not to love you, then choose not to love them either, and walk away from that relationship. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Now I know what your name is. That way I can identify you. Magic is just science that we don't understand yet. 1968, cool. Any sufficient advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I remember that quote as well. And so that's also a good one. But yeah, understand cause and effect. When you understand cause and effect, you become incredibly more powerful in your life. Like, you what do we call them? Movers and shakers, right? Movers and shakers. But it takes work. It takes consistency. It takes study. Whatever it is you want to be the causation over, you got to know the pole of that thing. You got to know the pole of that thing if you want to change it. And you got to understand how things vibrate on that pole if you want to master that pole. The emotional part is the ego. Yep. But not just in the ego. I mean, I don't know if this is part of the ego, so let me not say that. But even in the those people who always want you to feel sorry for them. They're always being like, oh, I need you, all that shit. It's constant. It's consistent. Oh, things are just so, them. That too is a person who believes that people showing them sympathy or empathy is how they receive love. They believe that that's love, when oftentimes that can become frustration for them, right? I really wish people understood that when you are constantly seeking attention from people for them to feel sorry for you, eventually those people begin to resent you, right? Don't take this the wrong way, a certain person who's on YouTube. There are people who constantly hurt themselves, because every time they hurt themselves and end up in the hospital, people visit them, people come see them. And for them, they see that as love. But after a while, that shit becomes aggravating, right? It becomes irritating. You begin to resent them. Exactly, Debbie. You resent them. Now, you are just accident prone. You can't. You walk across a flat marble floor. I mean, one big giant ass slab of marble, and you still figure out some way to trip. You just clumsy. That's different. I'm gonna laugh at you. You are a joke waiting to happen. But yeah. So, but those people who always got problems, And some people think that showing care and love is, because I've experienced this. What's up, L English Prince? I had a former mother-in-law. Everything was negative. Everything was going to happen. Everything was going to go wrong. Everything was going to, And I used to, and the face was permanently like, right there. And I used to tell her, it takes more muscles in your face to frown than it does to smile. It takes more energy. But I used to be like, why everything got to go wrong? Why is the first thing you think about is the negative? I mess with my brother about that because sometimes my brother can be that way, and and I just tell him, mine just, he's my brother. I'm like, man, shut up, damn, stop. Why everything got to be wrong? My daughter went to Kuwait, man. She going to Kuwait? Why Kuwait? She just went to Kuwait like 2 days ago. Why she going to Kuwait? Man, this might not be the best time. But I said, bro, ain't nothing happening in Kuwait. You ain't heard nothing on the news. You ain't saw nothing. Ain't nothing going on in Kuwait. And in Kuwait City. It ain't like she out there, trying to go to Syria with Hezbollah or whatever. I'm like, dude, there's a whole bunch of expats there. They got whole communities in Kuwait City where you can walk around and be like, where the Arabs? All I see is Indians. All I see is Asians. All I see is black people. All I see is, that's all you see. So I was like, hush, let my daughter go have fun. But sometimes he does that. It drives me crazy. But I know how to handle him. Because as soon as I say, man, hush, I don't want to hear that, he lets it go. You got other people, they'll keep saying that shit over and over again. They think that they're getting love, but they're not. They're getting people who are just putting up with them. Sometimes we put up with them because of bloodlines. Sometimes we put up with them because of marriages. Sometimes we put up with them because of work environment. One of the worst things is to have a boss that always whining. That in itself has made me, I literally left Chase Bank when I was working in their IT department. I left Chase Bank because my boss, that dude whined all the goddamn time. And I couldn't transfer because I'd only been there for like a month. So I quit. When I found me another job, I couldn't deal with that fool. Anyway, let's continue. Because I got a bunch of examples of people who act that way. That's why it was a struggle for me when I got out of the Marine Corps. I was like, who are these nasty civilians? Where's everybody who just like hard charging, getting shit done? We rolling. All this complacency, I just didn't understand. Munchausen syndrome, aka factitious disorder, are those who seek attention like that. Ooh, okay, all right. I'm not calling it factitious. Oh, is that supposed to be fictitious? And I just can't read fictitious disorder. I like Munchausen syndrome since I used to live in Germany. So I'm going with Munchausen. I'm about to tell some folks today, you got Munchausen syndrome. I'm telling it. Mm-hmm. Oh, Clark be on his game, ain't he? Arthur C. Clarke is on his game. He got that Google thing going. Yep, it's real. All right, so the last of the principles, and so this is the overview. We're going to get deeper into these as we continue through this book. But it's good to have these overview because as we go through some of the other aspects of the book, you're going to need to have a basic overview of all the different hermetic principles. I think the principle, this principle gets left out a lot. People really don't get it, and we take it to this base level. But this one is very important. This principle here is the entire reason why I wear this, right? So let me say that for all the people who keep on coming on and later on in my post. Oh, he wearing the Egyptian symbol. He Kemetic, but yet he don't want to believe in Jesus. This what I'm about to read is why I wear this. Okay. Principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. On all the planes. Get that part, the Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything. The masculine and the feminine principle ever at work. This is true not only on the physical plane, but in the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, The principle manifests as sex. On the higher plane, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. No creation. Understand that. No creation on any plane, physical, mental, spiritual, is possible without this principle of gender, masculine and feminine. So when I tell a dude your God and God is inside, when I tell a woman your God and God is inside, I am not trying to make a dude feminine or make a woman masculine. It is that you have both energies inside you, right? Mentally, physically, and spiritually. An understanding of its law will throw light on many a subject that has perplexed the minds of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration, and creation. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles, or this great principle, within it, him and him or her. Every male thing has female elements also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand the philosophy of mental and spiritual creation, generation, and regeneration, the cycle, you must understand and study this hermetic principle. It contains the solution of many mysteries of life. We caution you that this principle has no reference to the many base, pernicious, and degrading lustful theories, teachings, and practices which are taught under fanciful titles and which are a prostitution of the great natural principle of gender. Such, such base revivals of the ancient infamous forms of phallicism, the obelisk, tend to ruin minds, body, and soul. And see that male dominant mentality ruins the mind, body, and soul. And the Hermetic philosophy has ever sounded the warning note against these degrading teachings, which tend towards lust, licentiousness, and perversion. Licentiousness, big word, and perversion of nature's principles. If you seek such teachings, you must go elsewhere for them. Hermeticism contains nothing for you as along these lines. To the pure, all things are pure. To the base, all things are base. The Kybalion by 3 Initiates. One of the reasons why I like the Tao, sometimes the Tao refers to the way. The way is what it would call the creative energy. It refers to the way sometimes as him, sometimes as her. It actually refers to it more as her than him, right? It's only like 80, 81 sayings, but it's her and him. Because they incorporated the law of gender in the Tao, that the creator is not a him or a her, it is a shem. You know, it is both. It has masculine and feminine. And before anybody say something about to the level, then that would make trans more of the embodiment of God. No, 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 no. That's taking it to the base level of humans, right? No. And see that I've never thought about somebody making that type of connection until right at that moment. And it's an immediate no. It is not this type of society that we exist in. This is, yes, every man has feminine elements, every woman have masculine elements, but there is a balance to that, right? We do exist in the physical world, right? So since we exist in the physical world, there are certain aspects of our masculinity. If you're a male, then you're going to have more of the masculine energy demonstrate itself. If you're female, you're going to have more of the feminine energy. The purpose, one of the ideas of society and two people coming together is to form the balance, is a physical demonstration of the balance. Like that's what marriage should have been to the ancient world, is a physical demonstration of the balance of the masculine and feminine energy that exists within everything, within the creator and all of its creations and its regeneration. That's what it should be. Not this male dominated, my daughter ain't worth shit except for 15 cows and goats, but if she's good looking, I mean, she might be worth, 30 cows and goats, the value of a person placed on their bloodlines and things of this nature. It's bullshit. The males inherit this and that. That's this male, that's this phallic, as they call it, this, what is it called, it, phallicism. That's the phallicism. I actually can see that one without my glasses. Of the world that we live in. And they miss the idea that it's about the balance. It's about the duality of the two. You see, even when I talk about, I don't know if we've talked about it, the difference between an alpha, beta, Charlie, and delta, especially in the men. You have a lot of Charlies out there. Most men who claim to be an alpha is a Charlie. These Charlies think that they're alphas, but all they know how to do is give instruction, yell, scream, machismo, that sort of thing. A true alpha also understands the balance between his own masculine and feminine. So yes, he knows how to give instruction, but also knows how to nurture. Knows how to lead, but also knows how to serve. Right? Knows how to correct, but also knows how to be corrected. You see, a Charlie who screams that they're an alpha doesn't know how to do all those things, can't handle those things, can't deal with those things, lash out at those things. They lack the emotional control that is necessary, that we talked about in the law of cause and effect. They lack that emotional control. But they run around, they scream that they're an alpha, and money doesn't measure whether you're an alpha or a Charlie. Money has nothing to do with it. A delta can make just as much money as an alpha. And a delta is a, go with the flow. I ain't trying to disturb nobody. Yes, dear. Because I used to train one of them's wife, and this joker made like $300,000 a year. Anybody can make money. So money doesn't make you an alpha, doesn't make you, any of those things. We do not live in the hunter-gatherer world. But it's how you treat people, how you conduct yourself. Those are the things that makes you that. But an alpha truly understands this, whether they realize it consciously or unconsciously. They understand this law at its base level, that we have both masculine and feminine. We have to know how to nurture and instruct, to lead and to follow. But so when I wear this is a reminder of maintaining a balance between my masculine and my feminine energy, because I know I am genetically more masculine. I'm a man. So genetically, I'm more masculine. But I have to remember sometimes, because I am a very literal person. You say something to me, I'm taking it literally for what you said. Plain and simple. And I'm very direct. And sometimes my directness comes off as being rude or arrogant. But really it just, I'm not going around the bush. Or when you're trying to tell me something, you're trying to tell me a story, James, because I know he's gonna watch this. But I don't say anything behind anybody's back. So this is something I say to his ass all the time. Like, dude, what the hell does all of that have to do with what you're trying to tell me? What's the story? What's the point? Stop telling me 50 different things to get to the point. Some people can't take that. So I have to remember sometimes. Let the man tell his story. Drives me crazy, but let him tell his story. Hormones drive our sexual preference. It has nothing to do with the duality. You're right. And hormones, your hormones are something that's very interesting when it comes to that, because one of the things I learned years and years ago, when a baby is in a mother's womb and it turns out it's a boy, he gets this washing of testosterone over his brain, and not everybody gets the same amount, uh, which is why some guys. Now I know some dudes who you would look at and be like, "Oh, he must be gay because he's very effeminate," but that dude is not gay. He is like on it like a champ, but he's just not one of those. And I always wondered, did he not get the full washing of testosterone? But there are other hormones at play as well. Uh, my jury is still way out as far as saying that homosexuality is genetic. I have not got there yet. I can't say I ever will get there. I'm not saying that I'm gonna get there. My jury is very much out on that. I just don't see any evidence to support the genetic part. But I know hormones can determine our behavior, you know, our masculine and feminine behaviors. Most people misunderstand what alpha means. Most people think alpha equates to toxicity and aggression. Yeah, alphas are charismatic leaders. You have to be, and that's why Jesse couldn't take over from Martin. Because Jesse's a beta at best. Anyway, I'm not gonna go there with y'all. Y'all be starting stuff. Stop starting stuff. Y'all be starting stuff. And that does irritate me when people say that a man being an alpha is toxic masculinity. No, a Charlie trying to think he's an alpha is toxic masculinity. A man leading his family is not toxic masculinity. Leading a company, leading people is not toxic masculinity. A man telling, like, I'm big about protecting my relationships, right? So if my lady says that there are people around me that is harming the relationship, and I start investigating that, I look at it, I hear her words and start and okay, well, let me see. All right. Those people either got to go or they got to be severely minimized in my life. Now, if they offend the relationship, depending upon the degree of the offense, they have to go, you know. And if they offend, they might have to go with a limp, you know. Now, and it works vice versa. Now, if another man heard me taking that information from my lady and then investigating it and then kick the person out of my life, they would call me a simp. Now, if they hear me telling her that this man or this woman, you need to be out of your life, they would call me toxic masculine or controlling, which is toxic masculinity. They can't make up their mind which one it is when it's just respecting the words of my lady enough to investigate the situation and watch it to see if she's right. And if she's right, taking the appropriate action. But also protecting our relationship by identifying anything on her in her environments that is damaging to the relationship. That's protecting the relationship. That's uh, ensuring the longevity of the relationship. Because let's be honest, I say this all the time. When you grew up, you left your parents. Your parents will eventually leave this world. You're not living your life for your parents. Your brothers and sisters will leave you and go live their life. Your children will leave you and go live their life. Your spouse is the only person who's trying to live their entire life with you. Your friends will come and go, but your spouse is the only person who is trying to live their entire life with you. So that person should supersede all other persons in your life. And I know that's hard for a lot of women to hear because my children. That's why a lot of y'all by yourself, because no man is going to take second fiddle to children. No, it's not happening. Just like no woman is going to take second fiddle to some man's mama. Because that's what dudes be messing it up. They mama. That's why you call him mama's boy. Call you another word. I call you little punk ass. But it's not going to happen. Both of y'all will be by yourselves. And both of them want it to be their own, because you can't say, okay, well, maybe the mama's boy need to get with the girl, the mother, the woman that got children. No, because neither one of them would expect to be first. No, because both of them going to expect the other person to treat them like first. Many of our natural conditions are seemingly corrupted because many have accepted these unnatural ideas as facts. I agree with you 100%, David. We accept. What is the thing? If a lie is told loud enough and long enough, it becomes the truth. I think it goes something like that. If a lie is told loud enough and long enough, it becomes the truth. Also, if a lie is told and those that you have given credibility to are the ones regurgitating it, you will say it's truth. You know? They told the church, I haven't posted a video yet. I'm posted later on today. I finished editing today. I had to go handle some stuff for my daughter yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to edit the video. But anyway, the church told Europeans that people of color, for the most part, who were non-Christian, were less than and should be put in perpetual slavery. Told them to go do it. It is their Christian duty to do so. And dehumanize the people of color in doing that. And people just believed it. And to the point where eugenics was taught in some of the top universities around the world. Eugenics this was being taught up until like 1930s or 40s. It was still being taught. Black people don't feel pain the same way, don't have souls, all these kinds of things. This is why when black women die from postpartum after having a baby, I said postpartum, but after having a baby than anybody else, because they are ignored. Their pain is ignored. Their cries for help are ignored because eugenics is still at work in this country, in this world. You tell that lie big enough, strong enough, and you get the right people to support it, they will believe it to be the truth, and it will take a mountain to change it. Look at how many things is just wrong about almost all the religions, and people still follow it. That's why you can't. This is why these are called laws, because you can't deny them. They're undeniable. It's exemplified in everything in nature. You can see it in the way you live your life. I see a lot of guys choosing women that resemble their mothers. Some go as far. Same goes for women. That's a normal thing. Look, my first two loves was my mom and my grandmother. My mother and my grandmother. Those were my first two loves. I watched those women. I treated those women like they didn't teach me the chivalry. My mother and my grandmother didn't teach me chivalry. I just started doing it when I was at a young age because I saw it on TV and I wanted to be chivalrous. I used to love watching King Arthur and all that stuff. Love James Bond. And so I was chivalrous to my mother and my grandmother before I was chivalrous to anybody else. But I love the way my grandmother and my mother took care of me, how they treated me, how we laughed and joked and had fun, even in the worst of times. Me, my mother, and my grandmother, we always had fun together. So yeah, I'm attracted to women who have a mixture personality of my mother and my grandmother. If you they were not argumentative. So if you're an argumentative woman, I can't deal with you, because I never ever saw my mother or grandmother in an argument with with whoever they was married to or dating. My mother and grandfather, my grandmother and grandfather, I never seen them argue. You would never see them argue. They would never argue in front of anybody, right? So she wasn't the kind of woman that would do shit like that. But anyway, and I would look at my daughters, and I recognize that I've made it difficult because my daughters look for dudes that are like me. If you're not like me, you're gonna have a hard way to go with my daughters, right? And they'll give you a chance to grow, but them expectations be hitting. It's just the way it is. It's a normal thing. Unless you got some jacked up parents. I've seen the ones go opposite because that parent be like, I don't want nobody like my dad. I don't want nobody like my mom. You know. And I've seen some parents that if they were my parents, I'd be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't want nobody like them. That's that's why I like meeting the parents. I want to see if you like them or if you're not like them. What do false teachers and leaders get out of misleading others? What is the intention? I have been told it's energy stealing, but I still have a hard time understanding this. To a certain degree, to the more occultish people, it is the stealing of energy. That's one of the things, but it's a multitude of things. Stealing of energy is the feeling. It's well, stealing of energy, getting money, definitely getting money. But also it's a thing within them that where they require notoriety and prestige. They need other people to validate them, you know, so that they can feel better. And then some of them are just downright crooks. They see an opportunity to take advantage of people, and they do. You know, L. Ron Hubbard. If I ever want to get rich, all I gotta do is start a religion. He started Scientology. When he first wrote his book, he said, "No, this is fiction." But then when people start believing it as religion, he was like, "Oh no, yep, it's real, it's a religion." He was just trying to make some money. George W. Bush said on camera with a straight face that a lie becomes fact if you keep repeating it. And it does. I can't get off on with someone that reminds me of family. And that depends. Yeah, and I can understand that. I got there are certain family members that if a woman acted like them, you're not gonna be in a relationship with me. Not at all. It's not gonna happen. We're not even gonna think about it because that shit right there, I can't deal with it. Like, I love my sister, my younger sister, but a woman like my younger sister would drive me crazy. Drive me crazy. And she know it. My sister knows it. My sister will sacrifice everything that she has and put herself in jeopardy for the sake of her kids and grandkids. Hell no. It's like this dude who comes to the lounge always say, F them kids. Don't get me wrong. I will take care of my kids. I will do as much as I possibly can for my kids. That's why yesterday I suffered through Atlanta traffic to take care of my daughter's car because she couldn't get it taken care of before she went to Kuwait City. I made sure I found somebody to come watch the lounge. I got out in that heat. I'm on my motorcycle. I was on my motorcycle, so I'm in stop and go traffic. If you've ever ridden a motorcycle, stop and go traffic is the worst, right? For my kids, though, I go do it. But I am not going, them jokers know, I will not go to jail for you. I will not go broke for you. That is not happening. And if you consistently show that you are messing up, I'm gonna let you dangle. You about to get this. My oldest, I try to tell her, Sydney, don't do this. Sydney, stop doing it. Simple. Because I had to fuss at my niece yesterday. Stop getting apartments that require a roommate. Get an apartment that doesn't require a roommate, but have a roommate. Save the money that you would normally pay so that you have a down payment to buy a house. Been telling this little chick this forever. She's 27 and she still don't get it. So I let her dangle because they in an apartment right now and both of them struck because the other two roommates rolled out on them. Hard-headed. Hard-headed. So sometimes I dangle, but I'm still there for her. Still there for her. She had problems with the car. I went down for the car. Am I going to tell her that she got to pay me the money that it costs to handle the car? No, of course not. I'm father. I wouldn't do that. You know. Oh, you're welcome. But I couldn't. My sister though, I've seen her lose jobs, lose opportunities, lose houses, lose all kinds of stuff. It's all for the sake of kids. She got mad at me. She get mad at me when I talk about this stuff. She'll be all right. She'll get over it. I told her son one time, you don't love your mother. And he started crying and shit. I was like, nah, bro, you don't love your mother because you will take advantage of your mother, use up all the stuff, and then leave her out where she got to go move back in with your grandma. So I told him you don't love her. He went crying to his mom and she got mad at me. I'm like, it's the truth. When you gonna recognize this? I gotta call her today, matter of fact. But I'm just saying, I couldn't deal with that. I really couldn't. Whoa, Mr. Clark. Oh, you was just telling me that was Arthur C. Clarke you was quoting, but you still ain't told me your name. I just recognized that. Atlanteans can't drive. Road rage is real. People from Atlanta, from my day of Atlanta, people from Atlanta can drive. Sir, let's clear this up. I'm about tired of all you transplants coming down to my city and start talking about we can't, you know, especially with the driving part. I want you to think about this. Atlanta is a huge transplant city, right? And most people don't recognize this. They recognize what I'm about to say. Atlanta's a huge transplant city. Most people can live in Atlanta and go 10, 15 years and not meet anybody who was born and raised in Atlanta, especially at my age. You won't meet them. It's hard. You won't. We hide from y'all. We stay away from y'all. All right. Huge transplant city. Now, you got people from New York who's never had a driver's license until they turned 31 and they came down here. You got people from Philly. You got people from DC. You got people from Chicago. People from LA, Dallas. You got people from all over the United States here in Atlanta. Then you got all the foreigners. You got people you got the Spanish foreigners. You got the African foreigners. You got the European foreigners. You got all these foreigners who are also here in Atlanta. All these people are used to driving a certain way wherever they were from. You take all of that and you put it into the pot. It does not come out like a good gumbo, bro. It does not. It doesn't come out like, you know, it's a stew that you take all the leftovers and you put it together, right? It does not mix. You see, when I was growing up in Atlanta, you see some, you know, when you're coming up in the on-ramp, people trying to get on, we get over and let people on. We had courtesy when we drove. You know, as I was growing up, we had courtesy. We gave people the right of way. You know, we was cool with that. You trying to get out somewhere, we let you pull out. That's how we do it. Especially them northerners, hell no. Y'all are right in the damn lane where people trying to get on the highway. You ain't got nobody next to you, and you'll stay in that damn lane, and you'll stay on that same little slow ass speed, and you don't let nobody over, which causes a problem and jams and all this kind of stuff. You know, y'all don't be looking, just be getting over, right? So it's not Atlanteans who don't know how to drive. It's all you transplants trying to drive how you drove in Chicago, Dallas, LA, Seattle, New York. And New York ones are the worst one because them jokers don't have the experience of driving. They just started driving and they grown. They're the worst ones. But it's people from all these places trying to drive together and it just don't work. Because you can't drive the way you drove there and expect everybody else to understand your driving and how and what it means. You know. So it ain't us. And like I said, we hide from y'all. Hell, in the community I grew up in, we have a block party and we don't even tell y'all that we having it. If you ain't from Mayretta, you ain't gonna know what happened. When I went to LA, the first people I met there were from Georgia and Florida. LA is like LA is a good. It's people come from all over the place, but when I was in LA, I met a bunch of people from LA. Now we'll give LA credit. Y'all respect people on motorcycles. They respect people on motorcycles all throughout California. They will get over. They look out for the motorcycle. These jokers on the East Coast don't care nothing about us on the bike. But yeah, so don't blame the people from Atlanta for the traffic issues. That's all the rest of y'all. And all these damn trucks that be rolling through here. Yep, the mix is like some nasty ass gumbo. And that traffic yesterday drove me crazy. Even on the side roads, I was like, goodness, y'all are killing me. So, I don't know. Do I want to start this next part? How many pages is it? Because I don't want to start it if we can't finish it. Ooh. Nope, we're going to save this one. Because, yeah, because I want to do this one with, I don't know, shit. I might need to do this one right now. No, we can do these two next week. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle loved the motorcycle. She got much respect. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. I think, Michelle, you in Birmingham or something, right? So, does anybody have any questions about any of the basic understanding of the hermetic laws? The next chapter is actually mental transmutation. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, but it's after 12, and I would hate to stop in the middle. But it's kind of like I should get this part done because the all is going to take a lot of time. We could save it. Hell, fuck it. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So that's a basic understanding of the hermetic principles, right? The next one is mental transmutation. The next, what we've done with those are the basic laws. So now it's going to get into understanding these laws more deeply, as well as just understanding them more deeply, and then how to utilize them. So this next part is mental transmutation. Stop ringing up down there. Mental transmutation, mind, as well as metals and elements, may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, pole to pole, vibration to vibration. True hermetic transmutation is a mental art. And understand that alchemy is a process of mental transmutation, not so much fixated on the philosopher's stone, turning base metals into gold. It's about turning base thoughts into gold. And that's what we're going to, mental transmutation, we're going to get into that. As we have stated, the Hermetists were the original alchemists, astrologers, and psychologists. Hermes have been the founders of the old school of these schools of thought. From astrology has grown the modern astronomy. From alchemy has grown the modern chemistry. From the mystical psychology has grown the modern psychology of the schools. But it must not be supposed that the ancients were ignorant of that which the modern schools supposed to be their exclusive and special property. The records engraved on the stones of ancient Egypt showed conclusively that the ancients had a full comprehensive knowledge of astronomy, and the very building of the pyramids showed the connection between their design and the study of astronomical science. Nor were they ignorant of chemistry, for the fragments of ancient writings show that they were acquainted with the chemical properties of things. In fact, the ancient theories regarding physics are being slowly verified by the latest discoveries in modern science, notably those relating to the constitution of matter. Like one of those things is the fact that they understood that there were atoms and molecules. Well, there were molecules, and then there were atoms, and then there were protons and electrons, and that there is space in between the protons and electrons. They're finding, that ancient people did have a certain level of understanding of those things, and that there's no such thing as empty space. Nor must it be supposed that they were ignorant of the so-called modern discoveries in psychology. On the contrary, the Egyptians were especially skilled in the science of psychology, particularly in the branches that the modern schools ignore, but which nevertheless are being uncovered under the same psychic science, which is perplexing the psychologists today and making them reluctantly admit that there may have been something in it after all. So that's just a basic introduction to mental transmutation, of how knowledge has migrated, how people have known things long before. And then we're going to get more into it. The truth is that beneath the material chemistry, astronomy, and psychology, that is the psychology in the phases of the brain action, the ancient possessed the knowledge of transcendental astronomy, called astrology, transcendental chemistry, called alchemy, transcendental psychology, called mystic psychology. They possess the inner knowledge as well as the outer knowledge, the latter alone being possessed by modern science, meaning outer knowledge only being possessed by modern science, because many scientists refuse to allow themselves to see how these things, how something like the sun or the movements of the moon can affect people mentally and emotionally. Although police reports will show you that at a full moon, a lot more shit goes on. Among the many secret branches of knowledge possessed by the hermetists was that known of mental transmutation, which forms the subject of matter of this lesson. Here's the definition of mental transmutation. Isn't the Philosopher's Stone an allegory about the pineal gland? Mm-mm. Well, yes and no. The pineal gland is where we can release our DMT, and we get visions and dreams and things of that nature, right? We being able to transmute your thoughts from a higher plane to a lower plane. I mean, from a lower plane to a higher plane is part of what the pineal gland does, and the DMT opening up your brain to be able to see things, the inner, as it explained, the inner knowledge and the outer knowledge, right? To see the connection between the two and how to transmute those mental energy. Now, in order to practice this in the physical, there is the Philosopher's Stone, right? It is believed to actually have been in existence, that you can make a Philosopher's Stone, right? I don't know anybody who successfully made one. I read about people who said that they did, and all of a sudden those people disappeared after they made their claims and statements that they successfully created a Philosopher's Stone, and then they disappeared. You cannot find them on the internet at all. I'm not a major conspiracy theorist person, but I do know government. Government, look, if you made a Philosopher's Stone, you better not tell nobody. You better keep that shit to yourself. It's not something you can discover unless it's something that has to be made. And there is a process of making it. Well, the only people who I've ever seen that said that they successfully made it, they all made it the same way. So there's something to it. I ain't made it yet, so I can't claim it. I haven't even attempted to make it yet. Isn't the purpose of the stone necromancy, made of blood? No, Purpose of the stone is literally has two purposes of the stone. The purpose of the stone is, um, well, what's necromancy? Because I might be thinking about necromancy and thinking about something else. But what's necromancy? Fair lady. So the philosopher's stone serves two purposes. One, it can turn base metals into gold. I mean, literally that purpose. But you're supposed to take the practice of the process and see it as the allegory for yourself and your mental condition and who you are, how you think. So it's supposed to be a physical representation of you taking your mental, your personality, your moods, your characters, and making it all better, raising your consciousness. The other purpose of it is fountain of youth, rejuvenation, regeneration of the body. And I think that's what necromancy. I thought necromancy is dealing with the dead, but I think bringing the dead to life is what I thought necromancy is. But it's being able to achieve everlasting life. And there are, they say that the Saint Germain, who was an alchemist, that he created a philosopher's stone. I would love to meet him if he did. The supposed practice of communicating with the dead, especially in order to predict the future or creating life. No. Yeah, so no, it's not necromancy. Necromancy is controlling the dead like a zombie. Yeah, it's not necromancy. It's sustaining everlasting life, to be able to live forever. And it's not blood. It is urine. It is urine. Urine is the element that you need in order to make a philosopher's stone. And it could take you 6 months. It could take you 3 years to make it. And it's a whole bunch of stuff you gotta do to it in order to make it. I am not in a place right now where I can try it, but around sometime next year, I'm gonna try it. What can it hurt? Right? If I make it and it's successful, then y'all gonna be looking at this face for a while. Then I'm gonna have to fake my death and all this kind of stuff. But I'm gonna have I have the finances to do it. So, and here's the thing about most people's mind. To tell you that the element that you need to make the philosopher's stone is urine, that in itself will turn people off. Think about some of those societies, those the theosophy organizations back in the day. They were all called the golden this or the golden that. Like the golden shower. A real life thing. There was an earthquake. I remember back in the 90s. Damn, I'm getting old. Back in the 90s, there was an earthquake in Egypt. But because it's against Islam, there's certain Islamic practices to drink your urine. This family was trapped for like 7 days, 7 or 8 days in Egypt. And during this earthquake, because of the Muslim belief, the family wouldn't drink their pee. But the one dude, he drank his pee. The son, he drank his pee. And he is the only one who survived. The rest of them, they didn't die because they were crushed. They died of dehydration. But he drank his pee. Something in that pee. But it has to be refined and purified, refined and purified, refined and purified, refined and purified until it turns into one thing, and then some other stuff is done to it until it turns to another color. And then if you get it all right, and it has to be kept at a certain temperature, and certain humidities and all this sort of thing in order for it to work. Um, Probably would fail if you made took if you had 10 specimens, 9 out of 10 will probably fail because of the conditions. It got to be perfect. You got to have the right condition in order to do it. And there are certain aspects of the refining where it's going to stink up the shit, according to what I've been told and according to what I read. So I will try it. I will try it next year. Next year, I will begin that experimentation and I'm going to see. But I can tell you this right now. If I make a philosopher's stone, if I'm successful, I don't know if there's a place that's safe enough for me to be able to tell y'all, because this world that we live in, you cannot have a black man and I stay in America to make the philosopher's stone. No. They coming. The government's coming. If it ain't the American government, it's some other government. They coming. Everybody will be coming after you if you made us philosopher's stone. There is not one government in the world that wouldn't come after you if you successfully made a philosopher's stone. You know, in today's modern age, hell no. And if you ever want to do some research, do research on the guy named Saint Germain. Saint Germain, supposedly he was an alchemist who, in the 1800s and all that kind of stuff. I think it's 1800s. It's sometime in that middle age area that this joker supposedly made a philosopher's stone and was looking 40 his whole life. I look pretty. Oh, I saw a video of me 5 years ago when I was 40, 46. I was looking pretty good. So 40, I don't know. I might want that 30-year-old body. I had a lot of bounce back at 30. But I didn't get my grown man body though until I was 37. So I don't know. Anyway, going off on tangents as I do. Let's continue with mental transmutation. Here's a definition of mental transmutation. Transmutation is the term usually employed to designate the ancient art of transmutation of metals, particularly of the base metals into gold. The word transmute means to change from one nature, form, or substance into another, to transform. That's out of Webster's. And accordingly, mental transmutation means the art of changing and transforming mental states, forms, and condition into others. So you may see that mental transmutation is the art of mental chemistry, if you like the term, a form of practical mystic psychology. I mean, just a simple thing of how a child can go from crying to happiness is a change of their mental state. That would be mental transmutation. And whatever action, whatever causation acted upon the child to change their state instantly. That state of the kid falls down and you pick them up and like, it's gonna be all right. You know, you give them the nurturing depending upon the injury. Or when they fall down and it's like, and they like all sad and everything, like, man, hey, I tell my kids, like, rub some dirt on it. You'll be all right. Got to endure. You got to change your state, maintain control of that state. But this means far more than appears on the surface. Transmutation, alchemy, and chemistry on the mental plane is important enough in its effect to be sure. And if the art stopped there, it would be one of the most important branches of study known to man. But this is only the beginning. Let's see why. The first of the 7 hermetic principles is the principle of mentalism, the axiom of which is all is mind. The universe is mental, which means that the underlying reality of the universe is mind, and the universe itself is mental, that is, existing in the mind of the all. We shall consider this principle in succeeding lessons, but let's see the effects of this principle if it is to be assumed to be true. So the creator, the all. So when it says the all, it's talking about the creator. The all is mine. We all exist. If you ever heard of simulation theory, it says that we're all existing in a simulation. I agree with simulation theory that we are existing in a simulation, but that simulation is not an alien that has a big ass computer and we're existing on a computer. Although they have created computer simulations that within the simulation, it exists all natural laws within the simulation, which would suggest that if you had a big enough computer and all this kind of thing, that we are in a computer simulation, even though the mind can be considered a computer. In the simulation theory, it says that does things exist beyond what you can see? Because a computer would only allow for the generation of trees to be as far as I can see the tree, but anything behind the tree is not built yet until I go to a point where I can then see, and it builds the universe as I move. But that perception will have to be happening for everybody on the planet. So if you have a place that is uncharted, a place that's not being observed, then that place is not existing at the moment. Until somebody observes the place, then the place comes into being because the computer will generate that place. This has been tested with I forgot what they used to test it, but they were shooting some particles, and when they were observing the particles, it created a certain field, a certain spread. When they weren't observing it, it didn't create it, but it only created that during observation. So there are some things to it, but the all. So I do believe we're in a simulation, but we're in a simulation of the mind of the all, in the same way that when you have a dream, that universe exists for the time that you're dreaming. It is real. It has matter. It has form. The dream I had last night, those people existed. They had matter. They had form. I felt them. I touched them. The items in the room, in the store that I was in, they had real. They had texture. They had smell. They had everything. It was real. It existed in my mind. It had all the functionalities of our universal laws. So just as I can dream and create a universe in my mind, the all, being infinite and unexplainable, can generate a universe and maintain the thought of that universe that we exist in, which is, so I do agree with that. Let's see, who is this coming? See, this is why I didn't want to get started. Oh, that's great. He bringing me my key. He was watching the lounge for me yesterday, but then left with my key. Hold on. I was going to use my key, man. But that was your key now? How you doing, man? Pretty good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, man. I had it stuck in my pocket, man. I was sitting up here and I couldn't. And you couldn't go out the back door and set the alarm because the alarm goes off when you go out the back door. So I was like, all right, well, that ain't going to work. I got you. But then I realized I can set the alarm from my phone. So, I still locked in and set the alarm. That's good. You hanging out? Yeah. Well, Greg is going to cause us to stop, but we're going to see. We're going to see. It's a lot of information, but so let's continue. To assume to be true. If the universe is mental in its nature, then mental transmutation must be the art of changing the conditions of the universe along the lines of matter, force, and mind. I'll read that again. The mental transmutation must be the art of changing the conditions of the universe along the lines of matter, force, and mind. So you see, therefore, that mental transmutation is really the magic of which the ancient writers had so much to say in their mystical work, and about which they gave so few practical instructions. If all be mental, then the art which enables one to transmute mental conditions must render the master the controller of material conditions, as well as those ordinarily called mental. So like we were saying, by utilizing the hermetic laws, the mental transmutation must go through that process of understanding how to change your mentality and then change things around you and change the mentality of things around you. In the same way that a charismatic speaker can change the mental thought processes of the people who are listening. You know, you can walk in thinking one way, but walk out thinking another way. And if you're charismatic enough, you can change the entire environment of a country, as we've seen with the Civil War. We saw with the what's that thing that they had? Civil rights movements. It's all about mental transmutation and whose mind is powerful enough to change those situations. But we can do this within our own lives as well. To continue, as a matter of fact, none but advanced mental alchemists have been able to obtain the degree of power necessary to control the grosser physical conditions, such as the control of elements of nature, the production or cessation of tempests, the production and sensation of earthquakes, and other great physical phenomena. Now, I ain't never met anybody who can do that, who can make a hurricane, make it rain. But I've watched it. There was a video that I watched a while ago. It was in a Chinese. He was in China and Tibet and all them places. And there was this monk dude. He was able to use his chi energy to light paper on fire. He then was able to cause himself to levitate. You know, some people said that it was a hoax. But then they went to this hospital in China. This lady had a tumor. They have been working with this lady for, months and months and months to get her mental mind right, and the practitioners who came into the room to get their mind right. They came in. They took a picture of the tumor, and then they did a live picture of the tumor. They did the picture right then. Then they did a live picture of the tumor. These people started chanting, and the lady was chanting, and you saw the tumor disappear. I later discovered that the chant that they were saying was, "I'm in the presence of a healthy woman." That's all they were saying. But they had to go through the mental transmutation of looking at this woman, knowing that she has this life-threatening tumor, but convincing themselves that they were in the presence of a healthy woman. So once everybody in the room was convinced that they were in the presence of a healthy woman, the tumor disappeared. A personal experience was, and it's a couple that I knew from a church that I used to go to. They knew how I thought. And they understood this. And although they were Christian, one of the things that I had told them when her husband had I forgot what it was, but he had something that was life-threatening, like found out, and he only had a matter of days to live. And I remember the only thing that I told, and I love this couple, and the only thing I told the wife was, if you want your husband to live, and she definitely did, I said, you have to make up in your mind, and he has to make up in his mind that he is going to live. And then don't allow anyone to come in that room who does not 100% believe that he is going to live. I said, you can pray, y'all can do whatever you want, however you want to do it. But y'all got to have the mental fortitude, and you have to be strong enough to tell anybody, the doctors, the nurses, the orderlies, any visitors, if you do not think that he is going to survive, he's going to beat this, they cannot come into that room. Don't mess up the energy of that space. And she did that. And he's still alive today. And he's still alive today. And that was, what year is this? 2023. So that had to be in maybe 7 years ago. So the mind is a powerful thing. The energy and the mental energy that people give off is a powerful thing. Adinkar, I can't say, I don't know. Adinkar symbols are ancient and found in Ghana and West Africa. I'm going to stop trying to say that word. Adinkar symbols were used in the Avengers and Independence Day 2. Oh, I'm about to look that up. Can't tell me some Marvel stuff, but I'm gonna look it up now. So let's continue with this one so we can. Now here's the caveat. But such men have existed and do exist today is a matter of earnest belief to all advanced occultists of all schools. That the masters exist and have these powers, the best teachers assure their students, having had experiences which justify them in such belief and statements. I just told you some of my experience. These masters do not make public exhibition of their powers, but seek seclusion from the crowds of men in order to better work their way along the path of attainment. We mentioned their existence at this point merely to call to your attention the fact that their power is entirely mental and operate along the lines of the higher mental transmutation under the hermetic principle of mentalism. I've seen it in, like, even for myself, when COVID came out and I was in a house with a person who had an upper respiratory infection, I told him straight up, I will not get sick. I will not catch your disease. I don't catch diseases. You know, I'm still working on beating the shit out of allergies. Allergies sometimes win, man. I tell you, the allergies win. But mentally, I decide I'm not going to get sick. This is my body. You're going to do what I tell it to do. You know, our mind emits frequencies. I can believe your story. Yeah, it does. And those frequencies can disturb somebody else's. And then I use things. I use like solfegios and binaural beats. I use those frequencies. I use my Tibetan bowls, you know, to keep my frequency right. I keep a Tibetan bowl everywhere I go. Like everywhere I go, there's a Tibetan bowl. You ever see me on the street somewhere? If I got this brown bag with me, my Tibetan bowl's in there. If it's not with me, it's in the car. But I keep that thing everywhere I go. Because if my energy ever gets off, I know how to get it right back. And even without it, though, I know how to get it back. And I do grounding to try to balance my electromagnetic field with the earth. You know, all these damn power lines, all electricity, they'll be messing it up. To continue. But students and hermetists of lesser degree than masters, the initiates and the teachers, are able to freely work along the mental plane of mental transmutation. In fact, that we call psychic phenomenon, mental influence, mental science, new thought phenomenon, etc., operates along the same general lines. For there is but one principle involved, no matter what name the phenomenon is called. You can call it, and we do call it all kinds of names. The student and the practitioner of mental transmutation works among the mental plane, transmuting mental conditions, states, etc., into others according to various formulas, more or less efficaciously. Yeah, that. The various treatments, affirmance, denials, etc., of the school of mental science, but formulas often quite imperfect and unscientific of the hermetic art, because it's not going to follow the natural format that we have, but the efficacy of it all is valid. The majority of modern practitioners are quite ignorant compared to the ancient masters, and we are, because a lot of the ancient masters didn't leave information. For the lack of fundamental knowledge upon which the work is based. They didn't leave there's not a lot of instructions. And unless you ingratiate yourself with certain groups of people, you will never know exactly how to do these things, i.e., what most people call secret societies. You know, and there are actually more secret societies out there that most people have never heard of. You said China released that info in January 2020? Oh, cool. I'm glad they did. But the medical world is going to fight against that, because if the medical world knew that you can get rid of a tumor that way, the pharmaceutical companies will go ham. What's the old term? Will go ham. Because of that money loss. But what was I talking about on this one? Yeah, the ancients didn't leave a lot of that information of how to do these things. And we've grown so in our modern world dependent upon machines and just modern science without ancient science mixed in together, because like alchemy is mixing both. We lose that, and then there are so many naysayers and people who will judge you that unless your mind gets strong enough, you will not be able to. This is why people group together who function in this, and they ignore, the base mind. I'm almost done, Greg. Not not only not only may the mental states, etc., of oneself be changed or transmuted by hermetic methods, but also the state of others may be and are constantly transmuting in the same way, usually unconsciously, but often consciously by the same understanding, understanding the law and principles. In cases where the people affected are not informed of the principle of self-protection, and more than this, as many students and practitioners of modern mental science know, every material condition dependent upon the minds of other people may be changed or transmuted in accordance with the earnest desire, will, and treatments of persons desiring change conditions of life. So basically, the people that you are around, the people you surround yourself with, if you are a person of high consciousness, high vibration, high frequencies, you can adjust and change the people around you without them knowing that you are. It's kind of like the old saying, if there are 10, but you can also be changed. If you hang around 9 broke people, you about to become number 10. But if you hang around 9 rich people, you about to become number 10. Their mental influences can affect you in how you transmute everything in life. If you're married or in a relationship and you're around people who always got negative things to say about their person, then you will eventually become a negative person towards your person, because mentally you start clicking into that frequency of everything that's wrong with the person, and you start only seeing your mate and seeing everything that's wrong with that person. So you can be affected consciously and unconsciously, which is why in the previous chapter we was talking about you have to control your moods and your environment, because otherwise somebody will control it for you. They will be the causation and you will be the effect. The law of cause and effect is always at work, always at play. Okay. The public are so generally informed regarding these things at present that we do not deem it necessary to mention the same at length. Our purpose at this point is merely to show the hermetic principle and the art underlying all these various forms of practice. Good and evil for the force can be used in opposite directions according to the hermetic principle of polarity. So like I think Ada asked earlier about the charlatan preachers and ministers and prophets and all these people, the ones who are utilizing it to move the people's mentality, to take their money, to take their energy, to get them to do their bidding, to give them their notoriety. So it can be used either way. The universal laws are not good and evil. They just exist for you to be able to use them in whatever format you choose to use them, which is going to be based on your morality. Right? In this little book, we shall state the basic principle of the mental transmutation, that all who read may grasp the underlying principle, and thus possess the master key that will unlock many doors of the principle of polarity. We shall, and remember, polarity, you got to identify what pole something is on. When you identify the pole, then you can move things to the pole, to the side of the pole that you desire. I'm gonna finish this chapter off. We shall now proceed to a consideration of the first of the Hermetic 7 principles, the principle of mentalism, in which is explained the truth that the all is mind, the universe is mental. In the words of the Kybalion, we ask the close attention and careful study of this great principle on the part of our students, for it is really the basic principle of the whole Hermetic philosophy and of the Hermetic art of transmutation.
How's it going?
How you doing? Doing pretty well. First time?
First time in.
right, so every day we do a daily deal where if you pick up 4 sticks, your least expensive is on the house. So
right.
Buy 3, get 1 free. You're more than welcome to the humidor.
Thank you.
The Kybalion by 3 initiatives. So that's the all finished part of that. Next week we get into the all, because without understanding the all and how the all operates in every aspect, how the all is and what it is, to as best we possibly can, we will not be able to utilize these laws. As long as you're walking around saying God is good, God is the He, God is this name, God is that name. Just like the Tao's, in the Tao, the way that can be named is no longer the way. The way that can be described is no longer the way. When you put it in a box, it is no longer a way, and then you have excluded yourself from the actual usage of the hermetic laws and your access to becoming a master alchemist, so that you can manifest and dictate life as you so choose and be in the causation. All right. Uh, Let me finish this guy, and then we will do our salutation. Any questions? Any questions? And I'll answer them when I come back.
You don't carry Perdomo at all?
We do have champagnes right now.
Oh, I didn't see them.
Yeah. We're out of the 10th anniversary of Maduro and the 20th. I got to mentally transmute this right here. Yeah, so there you go. You know, champagnes.
That's my morning smoke, man. I smoke those every morning.
All right, so look, buy 3, get 1 free. So go get 2 more.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you can do it in multiples. How'd you find out about it?
I drove by, I saw you, and didn't know you were here. So I drove by, I thought I'd pop in.
Well, we open every day at noon. We close at 10-ish Sunday through Wednesday, midnight-ish Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Very good.
Until football season starts, unless they open later on Sunday to Monday. We hang out, we talk trash.
Well, that's what most cigar shops do. That's what I like.
I do a podcast every day for something else, but usually I stop once people start coming in. But Greg don't matter.
He listens to you.
I know. No, he told me not to continue, so we're good. We got 8 of them. We're going to take off. See, it's $12.75 for each one. Get 2 of those.
25.
I know how to do math.
I had to count my toes.
That's totally gonna be 81.62.
All
You like a bag?
No, I got a little humidor. All right, good. I got my little travel humidor.
You work for Gwinnett County?
No, I just actually, believe it or not, I just retired.
Okay, good.
And my wife and I are moving back to Atlanta after being gone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, kids are starting to get to the point where they're getting married and having kids themselves, so we move closer to home.
Okay. Well, we are BYOB, so I can tell you that part.
All right. So,
So we build a bar with BYOB.
I understand. So, but yeah, no, we're just getting back. Matter of fact, we're still looking for houses and living full time in my motorhome over at Stone Mountain Park. So I was over here getting groceries and things, and I saw it as I was driving up. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Appreciate it. So come hang out with us, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. So, my people, all that time I was gone, none of y'all made a statement. None of y'all had nothing to say. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with y'all? I don't know. But this is truly the master key. This is one of the things that changed my perception and perspective on everything. After I had walked away from Christianity, I was like, oh, well, maybe I need to maybe I need to be Buddhist, or maybe I needed to find, I had that desire, like most people, to find some type of what's the right religion is what I was looking for when I decided Christianity wasn't it. So I studied Islam for a hot second. And I was like, that ain't it. And then I hit up on Hinduism. And I was like, that ain't it. And I said, well, since Buddhism came out of Hinduism, let me check that out. And I was like, this is nice, but that ain't it. And then I found the Tao, and I was like, well, the Tao is real nice, but and it might be it. But then I realized, I said, okay, let me go back ancient, farther. And I read the Emerald Tablets, and I was like, okay, I get a lot of this stuff. It's hard to understand, but I was getting it, and I kept reading the Emerald Tablets over and over and over again. And then I was introduced to one of my mentors. Was like, look, you want a condensed version of that Emerald Tablet, the basics, a basic part of it? Go read this book called Kybalion. Changed my whole perspective. Made me realize I didn't need an ism or an entity at all. That it is basically the laws of the universe, and understanding the laws of the universe and the all is all you need. And this is what the ancients were teaching. Now, to get some of the more instructional things, some of the deeper things, unfortunately, those things are held. They are held, and by certain groups of people. Most people in this world will never be invited to join those organizations, because most people in this world will never show what is necessary to be approached by members of that organization to then bring you in. So when it talked about how the information, the practice, if is hidden, it truly is hidden. Not because they're trying to rule the world or anything of that nature. It's because the world would literally destroy itself if it had this information willy-nilly. So you have to be approached, but that approach has to come through demonstration. And you don't even know when and how to demonstrate it. It just has to happen, right? I had diverse friends and started researching other religions when I was a teen. Yep. I didn't have diverse friends, but I just started because it didn't make sense. What up, Ty? Anytime I tell y'all something, my old man smoke crew be here around 1 o'clock. What time is it? It's 1 o'clock. My old man smoke day smokers.
We're consistent.
So, yeah. So that's it. That's really it. You have to find your way. You have to try different things. Keep learning. Keep studying. The way you are discovered is in how you're living your life, right? The way how you're living your life is how you are discovered, and most people, even when discovered, will run from it. Because these teachings are not taught in a book. They're taught by demonstration. They're taught by from mouth to ear, from mouth to ear, from master to adept to hierophants to neophyte. And I might be reversing those two, but down to the initiates. It's just the way it is. It's not for me to change it. It's not for me to be different. And I wouldn't want, everybody doesn't need to know how to make a philosopher's stone. No, everybody doesn't need that. Sorry. But I'm going to call it a day now that I got the second half, the second third of my old man day smokers. Is Tony coming?
Yeah.
Yep. So my 3 initiates will be here. So y'all have a great day. See you guys tomorrow. I forgot what we're going to talk about tomorrow, but I'll remember in a little while, and I'll shoot a little short video giving you guys a heads up of what we're going to talk about. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration. Let me hang out with my old man crew.